May 31st, 2014, three young girls were playing a game of hide and seek in a heavily wooded park near Waukesha, Wisconsin. But instead of an innocent game, two of the girls turned on their friend and attacked her. Anissa Wire and Morgan Geyser pinned down Payton Leutner and stabbed her 19 times. Two of the wounds were to major organs. After the attack, Weir and Geyser told Leutner to lie down while they found help, but they didn't. Payton then dragged herself to a nearby road where she was found by a cyclist who saved her life. Weir and Geyser were caught by police hours later with the weapon, and in a bizarre twist, both stated that the attack was necessary to appease Slender Man, a fictional horror character popular on the internet. Both girls were prosecuted as adults and sentenced to mental health facilities. Weir has been released, but Geyser has not, and now she is trying once again to get set free. I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. A big hour ahead, and we begin with a case which is really one of the strangest cases I think we've covered, and it begins with this character, the Slenderman case. That's what we refer to it as, the Slenderman case. Sounds eerie because it is. It really is. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and it's really because who was involved here? Morgan Geyser, just 12 years old, when she stabbed her friend 19 times with another friend. 12 years old. A kid, a child, attacking another child. Thank goodness the victim survived this. But the question now is about her potentially getting released and being set free back into society, because this was a case where someone was found mentally ill, legally insane. And as a result, you're not sent away and incarcerated, you are treated. Inpatient, you're not allowed to leave, but you're treated. So now the question for her, is she dangerous? Is she ill? Is she better? Will she be part of society again? And there's a big hearing today all about this, and it's not an easy case. This is a tough case for a judge to decide, because the actions and the attack was so vicious, and but it was at such a young age. But she's been getting treatment. The victim survived, so it's not a case involving a homicide. An attempted homicide for sure. 19 stab wounds. Stay here, we're going to get help, and then you never get help. That's an attempted murder. So a difficult case. But let me back up and talk about Slender Man, because when I say that, what does it mean? It means this, right? A paranormal figure. It's all fictional, folks. They're said to have existed for centuries. Characterized as a tall, male-looking being with several tentacle-like arms that protrude from his back. He's commonly depicted in the woods of suburban areas, which is what we're talking about here in Waukesha. Is known to lure children away, leading to their disappearance. And this is what kids are reading about. Using the SlenderArchives.com website, we were able to find the origins of this Slender Man mythology. Take a look. Initially surfaced in 2009 on a forum named Something Awful, was depicted in pictures and submitted to a paranormal images contest. Someone was trying to just win a contest here. The images were created by Eric Knudsen shortly after the myth became very popular on the internet, and it just took off. It became a thing. The focus of hundreds of stories, pictures, artwork, video games, and more. So the kids get hooked on this, and you're 12 years old. Do you believe it's real? Perhaps. And this was a lot of the discussion when this happened. Like, should we do something to keep kids off of the internet? Should we monitor what they're doing? The answer, obviously, yes and yes, but can we? No. So here's where we are. Stabbed their friend 19 times. Michael Ayala has more on the background leading up to this big hearing.
I just want to let Bella and her family Mom. I'm sorry. Never meant this to happen.
That's Morgan Geyser at her sentencing hearing after pleading guilty to a brutal stabbing that left her friend clinging to life. Geyser and another girl, Anissa Wire, stabbed fellow 6th grader Payton Leutner after a sleepover at Geyser's home. The girls, who were 12 years old, claimed they carried out the attack over their belief in a fictional internet horror character named Slender Man.
I believed that if I didn't go through with it, Slender Man would come and attack and kill myself, my friends, and my family.
Wire pleaded guilty to being a party to second-degree homicide, while Geyser pleaded guilty to attempted first-degree intentional homicide. Both girls were deemed not responsible for their actions because of mental illness and ordered to serve their sentences at mental health facilities. 25 years for Anissa Wire, 40 years for Geyser. At a separate plea hearing, the girls described what happened as they attacked their friend on that spring day in 2014.
Morgan asked me whether or not she should do it, and I just wanted it to be over with, so I said, just go berserk, do what you have to do.
I came up from behind her, and I jumped on her. I tackled her, and I stabbed her.
Do you know how many times you did it?
19.
Their victim, 12-year-old Payton Leutner, was stabbed in her arms, legs, chest, and torso and had multiple surgeries to repair her internal injuries. Anissa Wire was granted conditional release in 2021. Morgan Geyser is requesting conditional release from the mental health facility where she's been kept since 2017.
And joining us to discuss all the latest, Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas has been covering this story for us. So you've got this conditional release, trying to get them and return them back to society. One girl is back already. So another hearing now for Morgan Geyser, but not the first time. We've covered this story before.
We have covered this story before, Vinny, and today was actually her third attempt at a release. But to get a better understanding of everything that led up to today, we got to take it back to April of last year. That was her second attempt at release, where similar style to today, both sides were arguing with their respective psychologists about where she was mentally at the time. But at the beginning of that hearing, Deborah Collins, who also testified today, a psychologist, talked about her initial diagnosis and her initial mental state once the crime occurred. Take a listen to what she had to say back in April.
Describe again for the court ultimately what you concluded regarding Morgan's mental responsibility in this case.
I concluded to a reasonable degree of professional certainty that at the time of the index offense, so May 31st of 2014, she was suffering from a condition which would qualify as a mental disease or defect as broadly defined by the Wisconsin jury instructions. And I also concluded that because of symptoms of that condition, she was rendered to lack substantial capacity to appreciate wrongfulness or conform her conduct to the requirements of the law, and that there was support for her plea in this case.
And what was the mental condition that you diagnosed her as suffering from at that time?
As I recall, the mental condition was unspecified schizophrenia spectrum and other psychotic disorder.
So, Vinny, you heard the psychologist there just say she had symptoms of schizophrenia, but that brings us to the point of contention of that April hearing, because Morgan Geyser eventually says she faked all of those symptoms. Faked the symptoms of schizophrenia, faked everything that was going on in her head that led her to believe Slender Man made her stab her friend. So that was a huge argument. So let's listen to some of those arguments by the state and defense about those alleged fake symptoms. And then, of course, the judge's ruling, which we now know he denied due to Geyser's credibility.
Does Ms. Geyser believe that she ever suffered from psychotic symptoms?
As of today, in her current report, she has said that she has never experienced psychotic spectrum symptoms. Her current self-report of essentially denying all history of psychotic spectrum symptoms would not be consistent with the data that exists. So outside of her self-report, it's inconsistent with her past self-report as well.
It's not clear if Morgan was a victim of her father. The only evidence we have comes from her. We have another issue that was brought up by her about Well, was she faking all these years? The doctors say no, but I guess the question then becomes is why is she saying that now? We don't know. That's not clear. We don't have a clear answer on that. We don't have a clear answer, Judge, on why she committed this offense. For years, the thought was, well, she's suffering from schizophrenia. She believed Slender Man was real. She believed Slender Man was going to harm her and her family. And she felt that she had to do this to appease him. Now we're getting a different version.
Now, this isn't just an aspect where somebody drove a car into another car and drove off and left him sit there. This is a personal, if you will, a brutal attack on another person. This court is satisfied by evidence that's clear and convincing that Ms. Geyser does pose a significant risk of bodily harm to herself, to others, or of serious property damage for the reasons that I've stated. Now, as she works hard, she continues to do what she's supposed to do, but that doesn't change this risk. So in this matter, after hearing all the credible evidence, which I'm satisfied was very well presented by both the state as well as by the defense, I'm satisfied that the petition should be denied.
So, Vinny, of course, the motive's still unclear as to why she would have lied about faking those symptoms.
Right. So the doctors are saying she's not faking. She said, I was faking. Right. So it left the judge up in the air and all of us up in the air like, well, what's the truth here? Mm-hmm. So she's back in court today and she changes her story again?
Changes her story yet again. Now she admits to those symptoms, that the symptoms were all real.
So now she's saying, I wasn't faking back then.
She's saying I was not faking back then.
I'm keeping track here on this piece of paper.
Make your list, because it's hard to, it's confusing if you're not keeping up. But so today, 2025, at today's hearing, she says she was feeling all of those psychotic symptoms. And naturally, the state felt some type of way about that. They had complaints. So let's listen to some of their complaints today in that courtroom.
We still don't really know why Morgan Geyser committed this offense. And we've had different reasons provided over the years. The court pointed out the diagnosis initially was, or the rationale was Slender Man. And the diagnosis was schizophrenia. Sometime in 2023, that she faked all of these hallucinations. Really, as you indicated, really the groundwork for the schizophrenia diagnosis, and she made it up. Then the explanation, I guess, shifts from Slender Man to trauma-related from sexual abuse by her father. And now, again, I think we're in a position where we really don't understand it.
So, Vinny, I know you just said you're over there writing notes, keeping up yourself. For the viewers at home that are still trying to keep up, let's go over, year by year, her story changes. 2014, Geyser commits the crime while experiencing these symptoms, admits to him back then. 2023, Geyser claims the symptoms were fabricated. And then today, 2025, Geyser admits yet again that she was actually feeling those psychotic symptoms. Now, her court-appointed psychologist testified in that hearing today as to why she may have lied about faking those symptoms. Take a listen.
The impetus for her making these claims is not fully known. When I talked to her about it during the current petition for conditional release, she essentially just had said that it was easier to say that she faked it rather than trying to really process and understand the severity of the symptoms that she experienced. And then also when putting it into the context of the changes that she's experienced in her symptoms across time. There's indication in the records that she may have inaccurately come to believe that if she did not have a diagnosis of schizophrenia, that may be favorable for her petition for conditional release.
So, Vinny, you heard her right there. The court-appointed psychologist, she led with, it's still not fully known why.
Right. It almost feels like she's playing the system a little bit, trying to figure out what should I say that'll get me out of here.
And we're still sitting here now without a definitive motive, a definitive reason as to why Payton Leutner was stabbed.
Right. So, tell me about the arguments that they end up making to get her released.
So the arguments today, which all of this taken into consideration, psychologists and doctors on both sides, the state and the defense, were all in favor of her conditional release, saying they've seen growth in her interpersonal skills, in her interpersonal relationships. They've seen growth in her responsiveness to treatment. Let's take a listen to what all three of them said, again, on both the state and the defense's side, and then ultimately the judge's ruling.
At this point, I am in favor or in support of her petition for conditional release. Specifically, I don't believe that she currently poses a significant risk of substantial harm to herself, others, or to property damage.
What's your ultimate conclusion in this case with respect to Ms. Geyser's petition for conditional release?
I believe it's appropriate.
What do you base that on?
Essentially that she has had multiple opportunities to be in the community and has done very well.
The bottom line common feature is that there's a unanimous support for Ms. Geyser's petition for conditional release at this juncture across three doctors.
I'm satisfied that by clear and convincing evidence that under the current set of circumstances, Ms. Geyser does not pose a significant risk of bodily harm to herself or others, or of serious property damage.
So, Vinny, third time's a charm. This is her third attempt, and she was granted that conditional release. Now, as far as what's next, her and her defense team have 60 days to devise a release plan, with state officials, and the judge can accept or reject that plan when that day comes.
But she's getting out.
She's getting out.
She's getting out.
Ultimately, that's the big news. She's getting out.
They'll probably continue some form of outpatient treatment. That's what they do, right? What did the defense have to say afterwards?
He walked out of the courtroom, her defense attorney, Anthony Cotton. He was very emotional. He's been on this case since the beginning, 10 years ago, 11 years ago now. He was very emotional about the success that was felt today in this courtroom. Just take a listen, take it all in here.
Success. Success. Got it done. Congratulations. Thanks, man. If I said this, no. On the road.
Yeah, so, you've been here since the beginning. How are you?
Ecstatic. That's pretty good.
How do you think the community will respond to this and not knowing her the way that you've come to know her?
Hey guys, I am going to join in.
I'm born and raised in Waukesha. My whole family lives here. I think the community will understand if they think about it deeply. This is a very good judge who's been involved in the case the whole time. So he's certainly no pushover and nobody who's going to just do something for the sake of doing it.
What is it that you think made the difference over the last 6 months since this was attempted last time?
I think it's really the doctor reports were all unanimous. She's done a good job. Treatment.
So, Vinny, Geyser's next court appearance will be on March 3rd to discuss that proposed release plan. But until then, she does remain at Winnebago Mental Health Facility.
Okay. I did this type of work when I was in the prosecutor's office, so I know the way it goes. So it's not if they're going to be released, it's when they're going to be released, no matter what they did. This is a little bit quicker, though, because it's supposed to be 40 years, and now it's, a
fourth of the time.
Yeah, 1/4 of the time. Cody Thomas, great job, as always. Thanks so much. All right, when we come back, we're going to bring in our think tank, get some reaction to all of this, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinny Politan Investigates Part 1 of a 2-part special as we take a look at the murder of John Benet Ramsey and look at someone who was a potential person of interest in the case, who's been writing and talking about it through the years. And tonight we reveal new video of that man. Who is he? And should investigators be looking at him? We take a closer look.
JonBenet is God. A two-night special report.
Exclusive video of the man who claims to be JonBenet Ramsey's killer.
Vinnie Politan investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
A Ponzi scheme and a deadly poisoning.
A former pharmacist already convicted in a federal fraud case.
Now stands trial for the murder of her husband.
The Ponzi scheme murder trial. Live coverage begins next week, only on Court TV.
At this point, I am in favor or in support of her petition for conditional release. Specifically, I don't believe that she currently poses a significant risk of substantial harm to herself, others, or to property damage.
What's your ultimate conclusion in this case with respect to Ms. Geyser's petition for conditional release?
I believe it's appropriate.
What do you base that on?
Essentially that she has had multiple opportunities to be in the community and has done very well.
The bottom line common feature is that there's a unanimous support for Ms. Geyser's petition for conditional release at this juncture across three doctors.
Yeah, the doctors are unanimous, but I wonder if they would like her living next door or babysitting their children. That's what I always think. I think that should actually be the test. Not are they a substantial risk to harm themselves or others or some property. Would you let them babysit your children? But it's not the legal standard, I understand. Let's bring in some folks who know a lot about the law. Our think tank joining us tonight. Criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, host of the Courtroom Confidential podcast, Josh Ritter. Also with us, retired defense attorney Kirk Nurmi, enjoying that retirement, and former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani. Great to see everyone tonight. Do you think, Josh, we're going to see her again in a courtroom somewhere after she gets her conditional release in March and they let her out?
God, I hope not, because if she is unwell as she was when she committed that crime, it really is a threat to the community. I mean, that is the part that bothers me most about this, is that she's obviously been unwell for some time. She's been in this mental health custody for 10 years and already failed twice to convince, her healthcare providers that she's well enough to be outside. I just find it, listen, I'm not a doctor, none of us are, but it bothers me that it was only April last year that she was denied this same opportunity.
Because she was
lying.
lying.
We're sitting here and they're saying
she was either lying then or lying today.
Which makes it even worse, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Kirk, I used to handle these cases when I was a prosecutor years ago, and it was like I knew exactly what the hearing would be like. I'd go in there, and all the doctors would come in and say, the patient is responding well to treatment, Your Honor. Give the patient more freedom. Every single time. Not once in any of those hearings that I ever went to did a doctor come in and say, Your Honor, I'd be careful here. They never do.
Well, look, Vinny, I mean, the state of Wisconsin had the opportunity to provide such testimony, right? They had the opportunity to seek out an expert. And as Josh just mentioned, there were two other attempts, if you will, where the psychologists weren't completely on board. But here, with the state of Wisconsin having the burden of proof and providing no opinion to the contrary, the outcome was inevitable here. I mean, yes, the state at the end of the hearing made an argument about the offense, and that's good. That is appropriate. It shows a detachment and a level of deviancy that is scary to have someone like that back in the community. But we're talking about 10 years later and 3 psychologists saying that this is the route to take. So what you were saying earlier about release is inevitable, the psychologist is saying that time is now, and hopefully we won't see her in a courtroom again.
Yeah, Nima, and I just look at her behavior just in the last year, like making up a story, then taking back a story. No one really knows, and the psychologists are admitting, we really don't know why she did it. We really don't know why she was lying about it. But she's okay. She's okay. We can let her out there. To me, that's like I felt like we need a little more cross-examination of that. We need a little more, like, really? Like, Because the knee-jerk reaction, I'm just going from my own experience, which was like day after day after day, in every one of these not guilty by reason of insanity cases, the doctors will be trying to push them out, get them out of here. They're responding well to my treatment because I'm a great doctor.
Well, Vinny, that's why I did not handle these types of cases, because you're right, the standard is completely different. You know, we talk about cases on court TV all day, every day, and when we're talking about sentences, it's about punishment. But when you're talking about minors, you're talking about people that are mentally ill, it's a completely different standard altogether, and it's rehabilitation. And the standard is the person a danger to herself or to the community? So you have the 3 psychologists that come and testify that she's not. She had schizophrenia, she had psychosis, she's been off her meds for about a year now, and she hasn't harmed anyone. There was obviously previous suicide and these previous failed attempts to get out. Her co-defendant was released a few years ago with a monitor. That monitor is now off, and obviously she's entirely differently situated. She wasn't the one who stabbed the victim multiple times, but it's really tough to know. Kind of like Josh said, obviously we're not doctors, we're not experts. It's possible to predict what she will do. Obviously someone like this with this history has an absolutely much higher risk of harming herself, harming someone, clear mental illness, and at a really young age as well. So only time will tell. But unfortunately, like you said, the standard is what the doctors say. If the doctors say that she's rehabilitated, she's going to get out.
Yeah, I get it. Josh, I guess March is important, though, to have some guardrails on this conditional release, right? Putting some conditions on it and trying to keep some sort of a plan. And I guess that's the important part. Does she have a place to go? Will there be people who will be having regular contact with her to make sure that she's not decompensating and not sliding off the rails and does not become a danger to herself or others? I mean, and the other thing is, you look at her appearance changes every time she's in court drastically. Like, to me, that's another sign that, you know, everything's not 100%.
No, and even the comments by one of the psychologists was the idea that she is currently not a threat. I was a little bothered by that.
No, she said currently not a significant threat.
Right. That doesn't give me a lot of confidence. You know, when you've got someone who's changing their look, someone who's changing their story, who's telling psychologists that they were faking it and now they're not faking it. But by the way, we call that malingering. So when someone's a malingerer, I don't know if you can ever trust them at their word. When you're dealing with someone who's already demonstrated such incredible violence like this, I just wonder why they seem so eager for the first opportunity that they can to release her. But again, right. I'm not the psychologist.
And Kirk, it's not about punishment. I mean, you're in a treatment facility. It's not, you're not behind bars. It's not, you know, 3 hots in a cot. This is someone who's being treated for an illness. The question is, does she get released to society? The other part of this whole process, Kirk, is that unlike in our criminal system, when we have sentencing and other things, the victim's voice is very muted in these hearings.
Well, yeah, and we heard the state make the argument today that they objected to release, and with a lot of things, probation hearings and things like that, the victim's voice is a little bit muted. But we have to remember, I think it's important to point out when we talk about all this and all these concerns and changes in looks and everything, this happened when she was 12 years old. There is going to be, and we don't know what caused the issue, what caused the schizophrenia. We have to assume that there really was schizophrenia. So we have to understand that structure and the medication and things like that could have had a huge impact. I think we saw with the co-defendant how she's been successful, I guess you'd call it, in not returning into the court system. So if she has that structure, and if it's monitored, and those are big ifs because people can fall through the cracks, but there is every chance to believe that someone who did this at 12 can, in fact, be rehabilitated.
And Nima, there still will be court jurisdiction, right? You get this conditional release, you'll come back, you know, maybe in 6 months and check in with the judge, make sure everything is going according to plan. So there are some structure to all of this, but I can't tell you how many times, you know, they get released, outpatient treatment, and then something happens. and then they end up getting arrested or in a very dangerous situation. They're brought back into court, and the judge has to get them back into the institution that they came from. I guess we just hope that it doesn't happen.
Well, we hope, and Vinny, you're right. I mean, this is a high-risk situation. I mean, people, even young adults, I mean, I can give you statistics from the foster care system here in California. Kids that grow up in foster care, all of a sudden, you know, they're 18 or in their early 20s, they're released. More than half of them, within a few years of being released, more than half, Vinny, end up dead, homeless, imprisoned, or trafficked. They just do not grow up in stable homes, and all of a sudden they're put out in the community and they really can't fend for themselves. Add on top of that here, someone with severe documented mental illness. I mean, even if she's not an immediate danger to herself or a significant danger, I don't think that she's mentally well, or certainly not mentally as well as other young adults in the community. And her life is going to change dramatically. She spent the past 10 years, decades, almost half of her life in a facility with round-the-clock care. Now she's going to be on her own with an ankle monitor. So I have really significant concerns about her and those around her for the near future.
Yeah, like I said in the beginning, these are tough cases, absolutely tough cases.